For many years, the Middle East and North Africa region has played a major role in the global oil and gas industry. Saudi Arabia is the biggest oil producer in the world, and oil exports account for a sizable percentage of its national income. On the other hand, the energy landscape has undergone exciting changes due to recent regional developments. Several nations, including Saudi Arabia, have found new oil and gas reserves, which is anticipated to strengthen the nation's already sizable energy sector. Similar to this, North Africa has been actively investing in and exploring its gas reserves, which are vital to the continent's economy. Atad and Al Dana, two new natural gas fields discovered by Saudi Aramco in the eastern province, have been announced by the Saudi Arabian energy minister. Atad is roughly 142 kilometers from Hafuf city and southwest of the Ghawar field, according to the state-run Saudi press agency. Al Dana, meanwhile, was found about 230 kilometers southwest of Dhahran. The recent discoveries, according to Saudi Arabia's energy minister Prince Abdulaziz bin Salman, will increase the country's natural gas reserves, which is essential for attaining the objectives of their liquid fuel displacement program. By 2030, the kingdom hopes to export natural gas, and they are now thinking about using the fuel for their own domestic electricity needs. Their economy may expand as a result of this action, which will enable them to set aside more crude for exports. The Atad 108,001 well spewed out 10 million standard cubic feet of gas every day, along with 740 barrels of condensate. In the meantime, 16.9 million standard cubic feet of gas and 165 barrels of condensate were produced every day by the Atad 100,921 well. Every day, 8.1 million standard cubic feet of gas were released from the Al Dana 4 well. In addition, 362 barrels of condensate and 17.5 million standard cubic feet of gas were produced every day by the Al Dana 370,100 well. Certain developing nations, such as Bangladesh and Pakistan, experience energy shortages due to their reliance on imported gas. This year, India and China, major gas consumers, have reduced their liquefied natural gas imports. Furthermore, as the world's energy crisis deepens, nations are searching for stable energy sources, which has increased investment in brand new LNG infrastructure. As per the August report by Rystad Energy, it is anticipated that in 2024, this investment will amount to $42 billion per year. According to Saudi Arabia's Statistics Office, the country's economy expanded by 8.6% in the third quarter of 2023. The increase was brought on by both higher oil prices and government reforms. The largest economy in the Arab world grew at a faster rate than the 6.8% growth in 2022 during the 3 months that ended in September, according to the Gasstat's Flash Estimates report. Moreover, Gasstat recorded a 14.5% rise in oil activities, above the 9.3% growth of the previous year. However, this was less than the 22.9% increase in the second quarter of 2023. Crude oil, natural gas, and refining activities make up the nation's oil industries. In the interim, a report on North Africa's unexplored conventional oil and gas fields was produced by the U.S. Geological Survey, or USGS. Huge hydrocarbon deposits were found in the Sirte Basin in Libya and the Pelagian Basin in Tunisia and western Libya, according to the report. A vast deposit extends from Bizerte to Misrata along the eastern coast of Tunisia. A portion of it is located on land, and the remainder is situated offshore. In addition, another deposit was discovered in Libya's Gulf of Sidra, off the coast of Sirte, according to the USGS. After analyzing 2 provinces in North Africa, the U.S. government agency discovered untapped natural gas, oil, and liquid natural gas deposits. There are 3.97 billion barrels of oil in total, and 38.5 trillion cubic feet of natural gas reserves. 1.47 billion barrels of undiscovered natural gas liquids were also discovered during the assessment. Now, did you know that Libya was the 3rd largest crude oil producer in Africa, behind Nigeria and Algeria, and the 7th largest producer in OPEC in 2022? Interestingly, Libya holds a stunning 3% of the world's proved oil reserves and an astonishing 39% of Africa's proven reserves. According to recent statements from the International Monetary Fund, Libya's economy would depend heavily on the production of oil and gas in the foreseeable future. They estimate that in 2024, the production of hydrocarbons will rise by almost 15%. From 1 million barrels per day last year to over 1.2 million barrels per day this year, oil production is predicted to increase. Given that Libya is the 2nd largest oil producer in North Africa, this is excellent news for them. In addition, Libya declared in mid-2022 that it intended to increase oil production. The National Oil Corporation of Libya said in a statement that they hope to reach 1.2 million barrels per day of oil output in 2 weeks. 860,000 barrels are produced daily now, compared to 560,000 barrels prior to their production restart. With the lifting of the force majeure on oil exports, production has already resumed in some oil fields. This action comes after organizations supporting the Eastern Commander blocked oil exports, cutting off the Government of National Unity, headquartered in Tripoli. According to Libya's oil ministry, the country is currently producing over 800,000 barrels of oil per day and aims to reach 1.2 million by July 2024. In the previous year, the nation's oil exports occasionally exceeded 1.2 million barrels per day. Although analysts agree that Saudi Arabia will eventually switch to renewable energy, they also acknowledge that the country cannot suddenly stop producing fossil fuels. A gradual withdrawal from fossil fuels is recommended in order to make the switch to renewable energy without interfering with supply chains, according to Francesco La Camera, Director General of the International Renewable Energy Agency. He contends that the industrialized world would gain from a gradual transition away from fossil fuels and toward renewable energy sources including solar, wind, hydro, and geothermal energy by guaranteeing a consistent supply of energy. It would also take care of developing nations' energy needs, particularly in places like Africa and Southeast Asia, striking a balance between the repercussions of rising energy use and the energy demands required for growth is imperative. Saudi Arabia intends to use its considerable wind and solar resources to meet its goal of obtaining 50% of its electricity from renewable sources by 2030. Large-scale renewable energy projects have already begun, such as the Dumat al-Jandal wind project and the Sakaka solar power plant, which is the first of its kind in Saudi Arabia. For the remaining half of their electricity demands, they will rely on natural gas. Furthermore, Saudi Arabia aims to become the world's leading supplier of hydrogen. Last year, Saudi Aramco, Zabits, and the Institute of Energy Economics worked together to send the first-ever blue ammonia consignment to Japan, making history in the process. The massive smart city project NEOM, which is being built on the Red Sea, also intends to build one of the largest green hydrogen plants in the world. Saudi Arabia is keen to seek green hydrogen, according to La Camera. They are willing to sign contracts to sell green hydrogen rather than oil and gas. The issue is that there isn't currently enough demand for green hydrogen. As a result, it's critical to think about the partners who will generate demand for it, since they are instrumental in its realization. According to the SAMP Global Commodity Insights Platts survey released on Thursday, the OPEC Plus countries' crude oil production rose by 130,000 barrels per day, BPD, to 42.73 million BPD in December 2023 as producers in Iraq and Africa upped their output. In comparison to November, OPEC's crude oil output increased by as much as 160,000 barrels per day last month, totaling 27.98 million barrels. In contrast, the 10 non-OPEC members of the OPEC Plus alliance produced 14.75 million barrels per day, which was 30,000 less than in November, according to the poll. December was the last month of the OPEC Plus cuts for 2023, before further reductions of a total of about 900,000 BPD are coming into action in January for the first quarter of 2024. According to the monthly Reuters poll released last week, OPEC boosted its total production of crude oil in December to 27.88 million barrels per day. According to the poll, OPEC's output increased by 70,000 BPD on average. Production gains were seen in Angola and Iraq, OPEC's second largest producer, which accounted for 60,000 BPD of the average. Nigeria had a rise in output as well. Saudi Arabia, the largest crude exporter in the world and the group's top crude oil producer, suffered a decline in production. Even though OPEC produced more crude oil in December than it did in November, it was still almost 1 million barrels per day less than what was produced in December 2022. OPEC and its allies, led by Russia, decided to cut their daily crude oil production to a total of about 2.2 million barrels during their most recent meeting. Once more, Saudi Arabia consented to the biggest cuts. However, there needs to be a little wind-down interval because manufacturing wind-downs are rarely instantaneous. The company may not be able to meet its own prices that are scheduled to take effect in January, as evidenced by the hike in December. To verify compliance, OPEC Plus will host a Joint Ministerial Monitoring Committee, JMMC, meeting in early February, media sources announced earlier this month. And that's it. If you want to continue to learn about business investing and financial education, we have got this video waiting on the screen for you to check out. Don't forget to give this video a like and subscribe for more videos like this. Thank you so much for watching and I'll see you in the next one.